The Onuma System and work orders. Work orders can be submitted to the Onuma System from mobile applications or tablets. The goal is to make it as simple as possible for the end user not to need to know the technical details about building information modeling or GIS, but to be able to submit what is happening in the building. So the work order is submitted by an occupant in the building, for example, a teacher in a classroom that might say there is water on the floor or this room is hot. An administrator receives that request either through an email or through a desktop application that gives him more information about where that work order is coming from. And then field teams are then dispatched from the administrator who assigns that work order to the particular person that is responsible for responding to it. All this can happen from multiple platforms, so it's not limited to just the desktop, tablet, or even smartphone. Just depends on what you're trying to do. And there's also dashboard views, so you can pull up a dashboard as an administrator and see the status of existing work orders. This layers in on top of the other Onuma System functionalities, such as looking at live energy sensors and what the status of a building is. So let's take a look at this live next. Now let's look at the live work order system. This is running on a tablet, but it could also be a smartphone. It's just a very simple work order page. You start off by putting in your name, who you are. Your email address is optional. If you put your email address in, you will get a response to that email. I'm going to put my email address in. And then this is the most significant part. This pull down is actually pulling from the list of buildings that are on this campus. I'm submitting to this campus and it already knows the names of the buildings. This seems like a pretty simple concept, but most owners have a very hard time keeping consistent naming and numbering, so you can't really point to a building or a room in a building and place a work order. But here, I don't have to think about it. I could say I'm in the administrative building. As soon as I pick the building, the next option is what floor am I on? It knows that it has two floors. I could say I'm on the first floor, and on the first floor I pull down the list, and it actually is showing a list of spaces. So I could say I'm in the lab. And if it doesn't show up in the pull down, you could actually type in a name of a space. So this lets the occupants of the building actually report if there's something missing in the database. So this helps the database to get continually refined. So you can type in a note there, or I could say that there's water on the floor, for example. So I'm just going to type in water on floor. That's all I know. There's some water on the floor. I know nothing about the mechanical systems. I just know that something's happening in the space that I'm in. And I could even take a photograph of it with my smartphone or tablet. And I could say how urgent it is. I'm going to say it's very urgent, and I hit submit. Very simple, just a few entries, no training. It's basically a tablet, smartphone type application, and now it's confirming that the work order was submitted, and I'm going to get an email back saying thank you for your work order, and we're following up on it. So next we'll look at it from the administrator's point of view. So I just finished the occupant in the room submitting a work order. Next the administrator will look and see what the result is. So next view is from the administrator's point of view. As an administrator, I received an email saying from Building 2 Administrative Office, first floor, lab room, there's an urgent request for water on the floor. I don't necessarily have to go into a BIM or look even at a floor plan in some cases. If I know where the room is and I'm getting it on my smartphone, I can go immediately there. Or I could follow up if I'm at my desk or somewhere outside of the building and click a link and say, pull up a floor plan or pull up the information about this work order. So now this is an administrator's point of view of the information that came in from the work request. So I'm seeing a little bit more information. So there's the person that submitted it, the request number, so it has a unique ID, the fact that there's water on the floor when it was sent in, and now the status. What am I going to do with this? This is a new request, or it might be a recurring, something that happened before and we're following up on. And I could say, who do we want to assign this to, in-house or contract? And I could assign it to an existing assignee. In other words, the people that would be responding to this work order. So for example, I might say that Amber from the team would get assigned it, or I could put a new person, new assignee, put their name and email address, but I'll just put it to Amber. Assign date, and I'm going to give her an hour to take a look at this. And I could put in more information here, and even the assigned priority, and say that, yeah, this is urgent, there's water on the floor. And even pick the trade. I could say, well, it's probably something's going on relating to plumbing or whatever. You could actually select different trades and work type, etc. Now the other thing is also on the upper right, this is pretty interesting because it knows what room the request is coming in, and the person that sent it in does not know what type of equipment's around that space, but because this is BIM and there's COBie data and there's equipment in the model itself, it actually gives me the elements that are in that room, inside that lab. So this is a list of all of the um, objects inside that room. And I might know that, yes, we've had some problems with the sink in that room, and I might even know that it's this sink right here. So I could keep on adding more information to give the person that's assigned to it, and then even follow up. And then down below, it's also giving me a red block that shows exactly where that room is. I don't have to, this is a dynamically generated floor plan from the model in the Onuma system based on the request that came in from the teacher in that room or the lab assistant or whoever sent in the work request. It's giving me a floor plan view of that room. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit save, and that's the end of the administrator's assignment. And then I'm seeing a list of everything else that has happened in that room, so I can follow up and see what's happened in the past. So I can see some water leaks that happened in the past, etc. So that's the end of the administrator's point of view, and now the field staff would get a response. They would have to respond back to the floor plan. So next, let's take a look at a different view. Let's actually go back into the live Onuma system. This is the floor plan. This is dynamically generated. In this case, we're color coding it by floor type, or I could say by other information about the what type of ceiling does it have. So I have all this at my fingertips as different levels of users. So if I'm a facility manager and I want to kind of get a sense of what's going on, here's that lab. So here's that lab that the work order request came in from. So if we pull down on the color coding of the spaces and pull up work orders, I can actually even color code and see that, yes, there's been an urgent request for work orders for that lab, and even see the status of previous work orders and even filter it by trade and see that there's something that came in relating to HVAC or all trades, and this is color coding it based on that, and even seeing the status of the responsibility of who it's assigned to. These are in-house work order requests that have been coming in. So this shows you how powerful this is. This floor plan is being dynamically updated by live work orders that came in from an occupant in the lab that color codes the lab red. So this is another view of how building information modeling in the Onuma system is made accessible to more levels of users because it's not required for them to know the technical details, but they can actually interact with the facility manager based on that information. And this work order request that gets embedded in the model now can also be exported as an output to, say, we hire a consultant to go in and say, check out these rooms, we want to renovate this part of the building, and here's a history of plumbing issues that we've had in this part of the building. So this completes the full cycle of getting a work order from the field, the lab technician saying that there's water on the floor, picking up a smartphone or a tablet or a web-based interface, submitting a work order to the administrator, reacting to it, and sending a request to the field teams who can then look at either their email or drill all the way down to a floor plan that shows an area that's red, that also recognizes what type of equipment's in the area, so the field team can actually respond to a specific piece of equipment if it's known. And then also having a dashboard view of what's happening on the entire campus with multiple buildings or inside a single building, and color coding the floor plans with the status of the work orders as they are responded to. And this is all happening in real time, directly in the BIM, in the cloud, in the Onuma system, giving many levels of users access to the same dashboard data as it comes in and is being responded to.